Liz Truss's message to the USA seconds after the Nord Stream attack. It's done. The former Prime Minister's leaked iPhone messages convinced Russia that British forces blew up the Nord Stream gas pipelines. After the Nord Stream gas pipeline was blown up last month, the 26th of September, questions have been raised over who did it. Both the West and Russia agreed it was sabotage, which means it was not an accident. It was a pre-planned terrorist attack to permanently terminate any hope of Europe going back for Russian gas. And it's safe to conclude two countries were not involved, Russia and Germany. It can't be Germany, because sabotaging the pipeline would freeze the Germans to death during the coming winter. It can't be Russia, because it can easily switch off the flow of gas to Germany if it wants to. As expected, the West was quick to point fingers at Russia, even though it can't offer a decent justification for blaming the Kremlin. Cui bono? The culprit that blew up the Nord Stream pipeline would benefit the most from the sabotage. There's only one country which fits the bill: the United States. After Nord Stream was crippled, Europe is now at the mercy of the USA for the supply of gas. French President Emmanuel Macron has just gone ballistic, complaining that Europe is left paying 4 times higher prices for its natural gas. The steel pipe itself has a wall of 4.1 centimetres and is coated with steel reinforced concrete up to 11 centimetres thick. Each section of the pipe weighs 11 tonnes, which increases to 24 to 25 tonnes after the concrete is applied. The undersea pipelines are designed in such a way that they are not accidentally damaged and leaks are rare. Nord Stream was deliberately blown up with explosive devices. But that doesn't necessarily mean the USA has to do all the dirty work itself. On Saturday the 29th of October, Russia's Defence Ministry finally revealed that America's sidekick Britain was involved in the attack. Moscow said British specialists who blew up the pipeline were the same British Navy team that had attacked the Russian Black Sea Fleet in Crimea earlier on Saturday using Ukrainian drones. Russia said, quote, "According to available information, representatives of this unit of the British Navy took part in the planning, provision, and implementation of a terrorist attack in the Baltic Sea on the 26th of September this year, blowing up the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 gas pipelines." End quote. 9 UAV, or unmanned aerial vehicles, and 7 autonomous marine drones were involved in the attack. Interestingly, Sweden and Denmark have both concluded that 4 leaks on Nord Stream 1 and 2 were caused by explosions, but have refrained from saying who might be responsible. Strangely, Sweden said on the 14th of October that it would no longer take part in a joint investigation of the pipeline leaks and does not want to share results of its own investigations with other countries. If Russia was indeed responsible for blowing up its own pipeline, exactly why was it so difficult for Sweden and Denmark to blame the sabotage on the Kremlin? The only explanation is that not only is there no proof that Moscow is involved, but all the leads were actually pointing towards US and British intelligence or military involvement in the terrorist attacks. The backfiring sanctions war against Russia. The Nord Stream 1 pipeline between Russia and Germany is 51% owned by St. Petersburg headquartered Gazprom, while Nord Stream 2 is owned by a Swiss subsidiary of the same company. So what would be the point for Russia of destroying its own pipeline? had recently further cut it to just 20% in an effort to punish Germany, the EU's biggest economy, for imposing sanctions on Russia. Nord Stream 1 effectively stopped pumping gas to Europe indefinitely from the 31st of August after maintenance work, reducing the pipeline's load to zero. President Putin has said that Russia will not resume gas supplies to Europe until sanctions are lifted. So Russia's plan appeared to be just to wait for Europe to lift its sanctions, betting that the European Union would eventually blink as the coming winter cold brought the possibility of people's uprisings. And there are signs that the plan was working. High energy prices and mounting costs of living have fueled civil unrest across Europe as winter approaches, including street protests and strikes. Moscow has repeatedly said that Western allegations blaming Russia for the attacks were stupid, because it had nothing to gain but everything to lose by destroying its own pipelines. On the other hand, Russian officials have pointed out that Washington does have a motive, as it wants to sell more liquefied natural gas, or LNG, to Europe. Of course, both Washington and London have denied involvement. Liz Truss provides the smoking gun. On Sunday, the 30th of October, it was revealed that the former British Prime Minister, Liz Truss, had sent a text message saying, "It's done," to none other than the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, just 1 minute after the Nord Stream attack. Kim.com, a self-proclaimed internet freedom fighter, said that the text message is the reason Russia believed the USA was involved. Britain's Daily Mail newspaper also reported on Sunday that private messages between Truss and other international foreign ministers, including some about Ukraine, have fallen into foreign hands because many dumb government officials, including Truss, still prefer using iPhones over the military encrypted phones issued by the NSA or British Intelligence GCHQ. Kim.com, who was born Kim Schmitz in West Germany, said, quote, "Liz Truss used her iPhone to send a message to Secretary Blinken saying, 'It's done,' a minute after the pipeline blew up and before anyone else knew." End quote. Because iPhones use iCloud, Russian and Chinese hackers could easily access Apple iCloud to obtain the information. Immediately after it was exposed that Truss's iPhone might have been hacked, leading to the embarrassing leaks, Chair of the Defence Select Committee, Conservative MP Tobias Ellwood, told Sky News on Sunday that Russia is, quote, "getting better and better at these cyber attacks and hacking," end quote. However, British opposition parties have demanded an investigation into the reported claims. Sources said that up to a year's worth of messages were downloaded from Truss's phone, and that they included criticisms of the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson by Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng. Truss's phone also contained secret details of talks about the war in Ukraine, including arms shipments, as well as private messages with Kwarteng, the Chancellor during Truss's 44-day administration. Almost immediately after Nord Stream 1 and 2 were blown up, former Polish Defence Minister Radek Sikorski set tongues wagging. A fierce critic of Vladimir Putin, Sikorski, who was Minister of National Defence from 2005 to 2007 and has also served as Deputy Minister of National Defence and Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, posted a tweet that read, quote, "Thank you, USA," end quote. Currently an elected member of the European Parliament, Sikorski was pointing his finger at the USA as the culprit behind the sabotage of Nord Stream 1 and 2. Back on the 7th of February, President Joe Biden had promised to prevent Nord Stream 2 from becoming operational if Russia invaded Ukraine. The US President said, quote, "If Russia invades, then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it." End quote. When a reporter asked, quote, "But how will you do that exactly?" since the project is in Germany's control, end quote. Biden confidently replied, quote, I promise you, we will be able to do that, end quote. Interestingly, a day after the sabotage, German magazine Der Spiegel reported that the CIA had warned Germany weeks ago of a coming attack on the pipelines. Time to make some hay. Asking ourselves who benefits, the accusation that Britain was responsible for the bombings is far more credible than the claims of Russia rendering inoperable tens of billions of dollars worth of key infrastructure it has developed over almost 3 decades since 1997. Given Britain's intimate relationship with the USA, it's hard to believe that London would have blown up Nord Stream without Washington's approval. It's worth mentioning that right after Nord Stream was attacked, Blinken stated happily, quote, it's a tremendous opportunity to once and for all remove the dependence on Russian energy, and thus to take away from Vladimir Putin the weaponization of energy as a means of advancing his imperial designs, end quote.
Thanks for listening to Proletarian Radio. We aim to bring you the best Marxist analysis on current affairs, revolutionary history, and theory. Do like, comment, subscribe, and share our content to help us reach the widest possible audience. We are a small organization with limited resources, and we need worker support if we are to grow and fulfill our mission. If you are able to make a one-off or regular donation, no matter how small, please visit our website at thecommunists.org and register as a supporter.